If you are a humanist, then the main question of our time is how to be human in the midst of such a constant dehumanizing show of force. How to be human amidst such dehumanizing forces at play. That is the question we return to really week after week in 2026. Last Sunday, we heard our spiritual ancestors help us to answer this question, how to be human. And Unitarian Universalists are answering this for each other all across the globe, all of the time. UU minister Reverend Elaine Aaron Tenbrink shared her experience at the National Clergy Gathering in Minneapolis last month, that large clergy call, and Reverend Ian went to answer that call. Well, Reverend Elaine was there too. She wrote her experience. She said, I was at the church to learn. There was a little church where they gathered for one learning opportunity to learn from a panel of 6 queer and trans young adults. They were all wearing masks to protect their identities, who gathered to share with us about their project to monitor and interrupt the work of ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, in their neighborhood. The Reverend Ashley Horan began the panel with this acknowledgement. She said, "It is terrifying that the state is not where safety comes from. That means no one else is coming to save us. And it is us who will save us. It's us who will save us. And inside that truth is tremendous liberation." And these 6 folks began talking to the group of clergy so generously, but they were not talking about protesting nor demonstrating. They were talking about how to protect their neighbors in the most nimble, relational, creative, hyper-local ways to interrupt the machinations of ICE. And Reverend Elaine realized this truth. There is no organization running what these folks were doing. There was no paid staff giving directions or marching orders. No big official sign-up genius for volunteer roles. No, just neighbors connecting, trusting, plugging in where they can, and experimenting with what works and what is possible in the ever-changing face of what is needed. Like, for example, squeezing in a school patrol before work in the morning to see if ICE is anywhere around the school building. Dropping off a neighbor at their workplace when they didn't feel safe to drive themselves. Taking a couple of hours to do patrol in the car, using their eyes, horns, and whistles to alert neighbors if ICE is near. Communicating in Spanish to keep neighbors connected and informed. Running a diaper and menstrual product drive for folks who don't feel safe to leave their homes for fear of deportation. Coordinating artists to do political artwork and make murals in the streets of Minneapolis. Offering body work and healing to traumatized, exhausted bodies. All of this centering the needs and the requests, the direct requests of those who are most impacted and most threatened. Now, behind the scenes, people are dispatching volunteers, streamlining and disseminating information, and sharing information about protective equipment and jail support. Now, many of these connections in Minneapolis had been around since the uprising in response to George Floyd's murder, and new people were also joining every single day of this activation. And this small group of 6, well, this was just one particular location in a huge, creative, responsive web of neighbors showing up to share courage, share protection, and share their love for their fellow humans. And they had a very clear message for that bunch of religious leaders from all across the country who they wanted to take back to their people. And the message is this: get to know your neighbors. Learn how to be a neighbor. Start building up communications now. Get organized, get agile. And another clergy friend who was there that same week shared a story of encountering everyday people showing up for neighbors around Minneapolis. While driving, they stopped to greet a middle-aged white lady who was pacing back and forth in front of a mosque during the midday prayer hour when the mosque was full of worshipers. She was brusque. "I can't talk," she said. "I have only an hour for my lunch break and I need to cover this patrol right now." She was on high alert, a whistle around her neck, ready to alert the worshipers in case she spotted an ICE patrol car. She did not identify as an activist or want to talk about activism at all, particularly. "These are our neighbors," she said, "and you gotta be a good neighbor. That's why I'm here, that's all." The poet says, "In every universe in which I am alive, it is because of other people. And I don't always like them, but I love them." We have some neighbors at our house, elderly Juan and Bettina. On one side, their gigantic house, a little too big in my opinion, hovers far above ours, blocking our view from the sky. They allow their bamboo to grow rampantly and cross into our yard, annoying. They leave their trash cans on the side of the road far too long, for days, frustrating. In many ways, they are not ideal. But every Christmas morning they come by with something homemade and ask our kids to tell them all about their favorite gifts. We have another neighbor just down the way, Matt. He's older. He lives alone in an even larger house. We're not sure he approves of us. We think we might annoy him, like that time we painted our back deck a bright turquoise, and he made it clear he found it an eyesore. And he might have been right. It said, the paint can said soft turquoise, and soft it was not. Or when our kids run into his pristine and perfect yard and scuff up the grass. Or when we lamented that someone had stolen our political lawn signs, and he said nothing supportive. But one time we went out of town, and without even asking, he brought in our trash can from the street, and he picked up our mail for us. Well, now he offers to do this every time we leave town. And by the way, how are the kids doing? He asks. He watches our house for us, not because he likes us, because I don't think he does, but because he believes in being a good neighbor, and he loves his neighbors. The psychologist Esther Perel talks about what it means to be a good neighbor when she writes, "Once, during a visit to Poland with my parents, we went to my father's old village, and his old neighbors came out to greet us. I remember him saying that though they were not close, they were, quote, good neighbors. Curious, I asked them what made them good. His response was short. They were the ones who would knock at our door to warn us every time the Germans were conducting a raid." Too often in our contemporary society, neighbors are strangers to each other, and yet, when crisis comes, neighbors still seem to have that ethical impulse that my father was describing, she writes. Many traditions teach that treating neighbors ethically is not only a response to their needs, but a recognition of ourselves in them. We too have been the stranger, and we will be the stranger again and again. Which brings me to Mr. Rogers, or Reverend Rogers, the Presbyterian minister. Now, there he is, putting his feet in the pool with another man, African-American man, but he's also kind of washing his feet. I mean, that's how we clergy see that happen. He washes not just anyone's feet, but the police officer's feet. This is someone with whom he has regular contact, someone with whom he is proximate. In fact, most acts of historical heroism are between people who already somewhat know each other. Did you know Anne Frank hid inside of her dad's secretary's attic? That's why they were in that house. They already had a relationship. And while it is true that many people in Minneapolis had been organizing since the murder of George Floyd in 2020, it is also true that a lot of people had been involved in that movement since the fight at Standing Rock for water rights in 2014. And in truth, many people had been working with that movement for community justice since the very early 2000s, when Minnesota was ground zero for marriage equality. You see, these activists and neighbors do not identify with a single issue. They do not wait for an immigrant justice issue to make friends with each other, to get to know each other and mobilize. They do not wait for Earth Day to get to mobilize because they identify only as environmental activists. They do not wait for a violent racist incident to mobilize them because they only work for anti-racism and nothing else. No, they identify as neighbors and as people of the movement, the long movement. They are part of the long movement for justice and sovereignty for their communities. So it is not your issue which will lead you to what action to take next, especially not now. It is not even your own will nor your own desire. It's not about what you want to do. It is the need that is right in front of you. It is the request that someone is making you that should lead your next action. Amen? Reverend Elaine writes that the spiritual technology of neighboring is not new, it is ancient. How to be a neighbor lives in our stories, our practices, our bones, across time and traditions. Buddhists ask not who is deserving of care, but how we can meet suffering with compassion wherever we encounter it. In the Muslim tradition, care for one's neighbor is treated with such seriousness that it is spoken almost as a form of family obligation. You must be a good neighbor. In the Jewish tradition, the Torah teaches that you must what? Love your neighbor as yourself. And then the Christian tradition, which is the root system of our Unitarian Universalism, offers a riff on that wisdom from the Hebrew Scriptures. When challenged with the question, who is my neighbor? Jesus, in all of his frustrating Jesusness, responds not with an answer, but with a story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest passed the man by. A Levite also passed the man by. But then, a Samaritan, that is not a Jew like Jesus, nor like the first two travelers, but a person from an enemy group, the Samaritan, while traveling, came near this man left half dead in the ditch. And when the Samaritan saw the man, he was moved with compassion. The Samaritan bandaged and tended to the traveler's wounds. He put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and made sure he would be cared for there. And then Jesus shocks his first century audience who could never have conceived of a good Samaritan. No, because they were the enemy. And he asks them, which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? It was the one who showed mercy. That is, the Samaritan was the neighbor because he embodied compassion, care, and I would add, follow through. The question that grows our souls and builds our collective safety is not who is my neighbor, but how do I become a neighbor? How do I embody neighborliness? Back to Esther Perel, the psychologist who often writes about intimacy and romantic relationships, she has this to say: intimacy is not only romantic, it is civic. It is the willingness to be implicated in another person's safety and dignity. It is the communication, silent or screaming, that your life touches my life, and my life touches yours. It is the village reemerging, she writes, not due to nostalgia, but due to necessity. Crisis sometimes makes us kin. Crisis makes us kin. You feeling that right now in these days? Congregation, the good news is this is a muscle we know how to flex. We can do this. See, we have been there for each other through a global pandemic. We have organized a huge supply drive for flood victims in Western North Carolina within hours, and then we got those supplies out earlier than the American Cross was able to do so. We did that. We have cared for each other when we have been sick, or when we have known disasters in our homes, or even at the end of our lives, we have offered that care for one another. And we have established a mobile food drive that has become a necessity for our neighbors right here. And now we will mobilize ourselves to be even better neighbors. So this sermon comes with a great task. Are you ready? Following in the footsteps of our congregations in Fort Collins, Colorado, and Rochester, New York, we will launch a quick activation we're calling Community Care Kits, okay? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, and I hope you will, is to join a 10 or 12-person team at UUCA. So that means we will also need 10 to 12 team leaders who can organize this team quickly. It's okay, don't worry. This project only lasts for 14 days. It's really fast, it's quick. We are gonna flex this muscle. We're gonna learn how to be a good neighbor. And if you're out there thinking like, I'm just visiting, I'm not really a part of this church, I'm talking to you. You are also, or if you're out there thinking like, I already volunteer on 3 committees, how can you be asking? I am talking to you as well. We are all involved in this. So step 1, here's step 1, ready? Befriend an organization near you. Your team lead will coordinate and decide which organization you will befriend. This might be an emergency room, a school, a nonprofit, a public health clinic, a substance abuse treatment center, an organization supporting immigrants, a place in your neighborhood that is serving a community need. Got it? Okay, it might not be one that you're already friendly or familiar with, and that is okay. This is where the courageous action comes in. You're gonna introduce yourself and your church, your congregation. So I'm Taryn Strauss from UU Congregation of Atlanta. Okay, that's step 1. So you gotta choose that organization and get connected with your team. Step 2, find out what they need. You have to listen. You have to ask. You don't decide what they need. You don't decide what you want to collect. You got to ask them and then listen for the answer. Something that they need that is rather quick and not too expensive. So we're not talking about, you're not going to be making like $100,000 gifts. Okay, this is like a care kit, community care kit. Maybe it's diapers and menstrual supplies for people who cannot work because of fear of deportation. Maybe it's donuts delivered to teachers at a local public school. Maybe it's lunch paid for the staff of an emergency department. Something that is materially useful and will ease the workload even for one day, even for one afternoon. Step 3, mobilize your drop-off, complete your activation, and then report back to base camp. That's us. We will have a quick way for you to let UUCA know that you have completed your activation. You have done your radical neighborly job for March, and then we will celebrate you and your nimble, flexible, responsive action in support of your neighbors. That's how we're gonna do it. Are you in? Yeah. I'm sorry. Are you in? It's just 14 days. It's over on March 14th. That's it, it's over. So you can get out your phone and you can scan the QR code that will get you all the information you need and get ready to go. You can go ahead and sign up right now. And if you're interested in being a team leader, I guess you could talk to me about that. But no, don't do that. Go to uuca.org/care, and then you're going to receive an email this afternoon that has all the information you need to join one of these neighborhood care teams. So this is the courageous part. Remember that the people in Minneapolis joined a decentralized movement. It was leaderless, and that is what made it powerful. My friend and colleague in Minneapolis, Reverend Jen Crow, told me how it worked. She said, everyone finds their part and then does it badly. And in the doing, they get better at it. It turns out there are no experts at monitoring a heavily armed militia that has taken over your suburban block. That is not something we are naturally experts in. It's okay. Everyone jumps in uncomfortably. So if right now you're like, how would I even do this? I got to make dinner and I got to get the kids to school. It's like, how am I going to do this? It's okay. We're all thinking that. We're all wrestling with the barriers, but you can do it. It's a quick and easy action of radical neighboring. So you will invite this team of 10 to 12 people. You'll create a little care package for a group or organization that communicates this. You are saying, we see you. We are grateful to be your neighbors. Your way of being in community is beautiful and important. The care package could include handwritten notes written on UUCA stationery. Ask us how to get some. Could include homemade cookies, gift cards to spiff up the staff lounge. So many ideas, but you are going to need to do some homework to figure out what kind of care package is needed and meaningful. So your team has 2 weeks to complete the mission. 2 weeks. Now, the congregation in Fort Collins, Colorado did it in 10 days. But I'm a little bit competitive about church, so I think we can do this. Maybe not 10 days, but 2 weeks. So when the world feels complicated, let us make it simple. Be a good neighbor. When the tyrants corrupt our democracy and violate our core values, let us take our next action and be a good neighbor. When the bombs begin to fall and it feels hopeless, let us find hope in our own power and be a good neighbor. We know what to do. May we be known by our radical neighboring. And in the doing, we heal ourselves and we heal our world.